Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's session. My name is Del, and I'm here in Nonthaburi, just outside of Bangkok in Thailand. So let me know in the chat. I tell you what, let me know in the chat where you are and where you would prefer to be. So I'm here in Nonthaburi in Thailand, which is very nice, but I would prefer to be in Bali in Indonesia. What about you guys? Where are you and where would you prefer to be? Let me move the chat. Blue, who's our presenter today, would rather be in Nottingham in England. Blue's a big Notts Forest fan. He loves Notts Forest, which is a football team in England. Guadalajara. Wow. Joining from the Philippines. So where would you like to be? Are you happy where you are? Or would you rather be on the sofa reading a book? Maybe you are anyway. Okay, so welcome to today's session. This is the second session of our autumn webinar series, and it's a very exciting session. It's the Lesson Plan Masterclass. We're going to invite Blue to the stage in a moment, but we're just going to get through a couple of things to get started. So, as I said, this is a Lesson Plan Masterclass. It's the third one of the year. We're very excited by this new initiative that we've put together. This coupled with our tried and tested ELT Time Pluses, our webinars, and also linked to our other new initiative, which is the debate. The second debate is coming later on in the year. If you want to know more about all our ideas and activities and the tips and the tricks and the things that you can get involved with and engaged with, then please make sure you sign up for our Facebook group if you aren't already, or join us on WeChat where you will receive information about everything that we're doing here at Macmillan Education. We love engaging with teachers, so please make sure you sign up and join us in these sessions. Coming up next week on Wednesday, we have a very exciting session, which is the third in the series of our webinars. And we're linking here with our global team, which have a new initiative called New Voices. Now, we've asked teachers from around the world, teachers, trainers, heads of school, from around the world to give us their ideas and thoughts and strategies to help them with their needs when it comes to teaching our students. You can see the list of participants we have here, and we're very lucky because we're represented in Asia by 3 people. Now, we're going to get to meet those 3 people now with some very short videos before we start the Lesson Plan Masterclass. So let me start by introducing Harty. Now, Harty is based in Vietnam. She works in a kindergarten in Vietnam. And here's some information about her that you can read. She's been there for 7 years, as you can see. And she's a very, very proud, very experienced and passionate educator. So let me introduce you to Harty by presenting you with her video.
Hi, my name is Hatwell Ayram, an instructional coach, teacher trainer, and educator currently living in Vietnam. I have always been an advocate for inclusion in education, and that is why I decided to talk about Minimax in workstations, which I believe is one of the tools that teachers can use to provide customized learning experience for all learners without wasting too much time and effort. And I hope that after this presentation, teachers would know that with the right tools and strategies, teaching shouldn't be so hard. Teaching shouldn't be so hard. And I would love to invite you to join me and the other speakers on 25th September. Please click the link below to register for the event, and I hope to see you all.
So by below, Harty means in the chat. You can see the link in the chat where you can join the session. Now, just give me a moment while I navigate my slides. This has been a challenge for me. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So next up, we have Lanji, who is based in China. Lanji is a very impressive person, obviously being a trilingual I can't even say the word, simultaneous interpreter. It really stands out to me that someone is really proficient in what they do and passionate about what they do. So let me introduce you to Lanji, who's going to be also speaking and representing Asia and in particular China.
Warm greetings to all of you. My name is Lan Xi, and I'm the National Teaching Director at New Channel International Education Group. My presentation is about solutions from version 1.0 to 5.0 based on years of New Channel's national teaching training experience. Through these 5 versions, teachers can compare which stage they are currently at, including what aspects and characteristics it entails, how far they have come, and clearly understand which dimensions need to be added next. In international education, challenges arise just like how should we plan development paths for new teachers? And how can experienced educators overcome the bottleneck and uncover further career potential? And how could we address challenges of AI and the increasing number of students facing psychological problems? Through my sharing, I would like to provide some inspirations for teachers to help them get a clearer sense of purpose and direction. Warm greetings to all of you.
And finally, we also have Elena Ostashenko, who is joining us from Vietnam. She's based at the British Council in Vietnam, in Hanoi. A very experienced teacher who's going to be talking to you about project-based learning. And I will give you her introduction video right now.
Hi, I'm Elena, and I'm currently based in Vietnam, where I teach English to young learners at the British Council, Hanoi. I have a couple of questions for you. If you use project-based learning with your students, have you ever thought about the best way for them to present their projects? Does it always have to be the traditional, often intimidating frontal presentation? These questions have always interested me. And in my talk at Macmillan New Voices, I'll share my findings. Drawing from my own PBL research and classroom experiences with young learners in Vietnam, I'll provide practical ideas on using formative assessment techniques to help students effectively present their final projects in a stress-free environment. Please join me and the other presenters on the 25th of September. Click the link below and register for the event. See you there.
Whoops. So finally, I would really recommend that you try and join us next week for this session. I think it's going to be fantastic. There's going to be lots of ideas, lots of takeaways. You're going to get loads of help and support when it comes to your teaching practice. So please join us. But today, lesson planning. And I'm going to ask our super trainer, super trainer, Blue. He's here.
Hello.
Hi, Blue. How are you?
Hey, Dal. How's it going?
I'm doing great, thank you. Really good. Really happy to see you here today, delivering the 3rd masterclass. What's it all about?
Well, if you allow me just a second to share my screen. It's not giving me permission just yet. There we go. Cool. Yeah, Dal, today's Lesson Plan Masterclass will all be about speaking, everybody, and hopefully cultivating an environment in your classroom where your students feel comfortable, confident, and at ease with everything related to speaking and navigating that journey. So that's what I'll be looking at today, Dal.
Perfect, lovely. So this follows on from the webinar that we did on Monday, where we looked at scaffolding and error correction when it comes to speaking. And Blue's now going to follow with what I'm sure is going to be a really great session. And I'll leave you to it, Blue. So have a great time. If you've got any questions for Blue, then do put them into the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll address these as we go on, or we can ask Blue at the end. And if you would like a certificate, please hang on. You will get a certificate. It will come after today's session with a thank you email, and you will receive one. So have a great session, Blue. I'll leave you to it.
Cheers.
See you
Thank
for
you,
the
Derek.
Q&A.
Thank you very much. So yeah, as Del just mentioned, we're going to look at a lesson plan masterclass focusing on speaking. Today's source material will come from Gateway to the World, which is a teen book, not exclusive to teens. It can be used for, adults, kids, but we'll look at the actual specific level in a moment. But it also centers itself around these things here: 21st century skills, real world content, and exam prep. So it's really at that level where it's encouraging students to speak more, develop their speaking and their general direction towards that sort of exam preparation. So with that in mind, the book itself is really sort of key to that journey, which I'll show you today. Now, the first thing I'd like to point out to all of you is that whilst my lesson plan, an idea and theme in general be about developing speaking, I'm not actually focusing on a speaking lesson itself for one key reason. The lesson sort of scaffolds itself in that direction. It's developing speaking. So what I thought would be interesting for everybody attending today's session will not look at a speaking lesson, but we'll actually look at a vocabulary lesson and how we can utilize said vocabulary in order to build and generate speaking activities in order for our students to feel comfortable using this new vocabulary that they've just been exposed to. So I'll be looking at Gateway to the World B1. Okay, so I chose like a middle of the ground, intermediate level. So on the IELTS band, we're kind of looking at a 4 to a 5 in terms of a band score. So really that general area where students have the comfort of comprehension of English, but really now we can sort of build their sort of vocabulary bank in order to express themselves and to jump up band levels to that 5.5, 6, 6.5 level. So that's what we're focusing on today. So before I jump into my lesson plan, as a teacher, I think it's really important to set what expectations you have before you go into that classroom and deliver whatever content it might be to your students. So I always have those clear expectations before I begin, and here they are for you today. I want some kind of active participation. I want those opportunities for reinforcement. So I want to rinse, repeat the vocabulary as many different times as I can. I want there to be a connection between the students and the content and the context, the general theme of the lesson. I want to make it personable. So in that case, hopefully it's memorable for the students as well. I want it to be student-centered. I myself as the teacher don't want to be directly pushing my students towards everything and kind of telling them. I want it to more be the responsibility to be on them, okay? And for them to lead their own learning with my direction. Hopefully, with all that in mind, we're going to decrease that teacher talk time and significantly increase the student talk time. And in general, I want all of this to be wrapped up with a nice bow on top for it to be engaging, atmospheric, and for students to leave the classroom remembering all of this new vocabulary. So what I'll do first as a teacher is I'll look back and see what previous exposure my students in my class have had to the particular theme, the vocabulary we're about to look at. Now, this is really useful for two reasons. Number one, it's going to save you time. If you know what students have been exposed to already, hopefully it's going to save you time actually teaching it in the classroom. It's also nice for the students as well, because they have that comfort of development, knowing that some of the vocabulary that they're facing today, they are familiar with. So it really holds many benefits to check what has been taught or students have been exposed to before you jump into your lesson itself. So here's my lesson plan. So I'm going to give you this bit by bit as we walk through today's lesson. Now, of course, you're going to have that general information, and this can be tailored and completely bespoke to your requirements and your needs. For me, it's really simple. I'm just going to timeline this with a date, class level, the amount of students I'm working with, and the lesson length. In terms of learning goals, that's very general, pretty much what I referenced already in my expectations, in terms of I want my students to comprehend this new vocabulary, illustrate correct usage within the context of which I provide in the lesson. And then simply you might just refer to materials that you require for a lesson itself. Again, this is bespoke, this is completely exclusive to one another, whoever you might be, but it's nice to sort of put that out there and have a clear reference at the top of your lesson plan. So what do we do first? The first thing we do is not open the book. I want to create a warmer, a development exercise that allows me to see my students' journey before we jump into the context theme and also the vocabulary itself. So all the books are closed, and here is my warmer. I'm going to put my students into teams, hand out one piece of paper to each team, and I'm going to give teams X amount of minutes to write down as many answers to what I'm about to task them to do. And again, it's X amount. This is flexible. It could be 3 minutes, it could be 5. It's completely up to you and the time that you have. So what I'm going to task my students to do is to name as many adjectives to describe how people feel. So in the chat, guys, interact with me throughout this. Feel free to just tell me some adjectives to describe how people feel. So in your lesson, the students have this long list of paper, okay? They've got maybe 3 or 4 team members, and they're jotting down all the words that they can remember, adjectives that people feel. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. Hopefully at the end, they're going to, thank you, Guy. I hope you're doing well there in Bangkok. Amir, same to you. 2 of my favorite people replying straight away. Thank you. Disappointed, says Debbie. Thank you. So yeah, you're going to give them 3 or 4 minutes. Time's up. The students have created a list together, collaborating, of all these adjectives to describe feeling. And there we go. There's my list that I created with my team. Okay, there's 3 or 4 of us in the team, and that's what I created. Now, of course, it doesn't finish there. We need to use this. We need to utilize it and get your students speaking. And what we can do is gamify it. So we're going to play last team standing. Here are the rules, everybody. Have each team take it in turns to read out one of their words to the class. Okay, so you can maybe you've got 4 teams. One team member from team 1 will read out the first word, shy. Okay. Now you're going to repeat this and go around each team. Okay. Next team, say bored. Now, if a word given is repeated, then that team must sit down. So if it's a word that's repeated, they must sit down. So there, Dolores says shy. Now, team 1 already said shy, so Dolores's team would sit down. Now, if the team runs out of words on their paper, that's not the end of the game for them, because what we want to encourage is thinking on their feet. Maybe there's some untapped, locked up vocabulary that they didn't write on their list, but they now can suddenly think about and say. So feel free to encourage that element of the game, thinking on their feet. Now, of course, the game will continue until all the other teams have been eliminated and there's just one team remaining standing, okay? They are the last team standing. They are the winners. Now, between that writing of the list and between that gamified feedback to the teacher, there are a number of benefits, of course. The pronunciation and the establishment of what your students already know in terms of the vocabulary we are about to expose to them. So it's a really nice way for you as a teacher sort of to get a really solid foundational understanding of where your students are at before exposure in the book. So what I would do before, just one more thing, is I would illustrate through pictures. Now, hopefully through this context, there will be that personable understanding of the situation. So here, guys, I've got a situation for you right now with this lady. The image, she's in the classroom. How does she feel? Feel free to throw me some adjectives. Debbie says confused. Any more? Thank you, Debbie. Get those fingers typing as fast as you can, guys. Thrilled, exhausted, and puzzled, Fetty. Mixed emotions. Nervous, says Amir. Jenny says disappointed. Again, there's a whole range of adjectives that your students could throw at you, isn't there? Nervous, stressed, anxious, worried. And then you could make it relatable to them. Have you ever felt like this? When? Well, like her in the picture. During an exam, I didn't know an answer. And then maybe even you can move it forward in the timeline. How did you feel after? How did you feel when you received your results? So all of this can be broken down in order to sort of cultivate and get back that vocabulary from your students. So let's do one more. How do they feel, everybody? The gentleman in the picture holding a certificate, how do they feel? Baffled and confused. Thrilled. On cloud nine, Beatrix. I love that idiomatic phrase, which is probably key to what we're going to look at later in today's lesson. You've got the idea, guys. So again, really simple but effective way of illustrating what we're hoping to get from our students. Okay, all of these different adjectives. So that would be my warmer. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this because all of you will be privy and given access to my lesson plan at the end of today's session. That will be forwarded to you in the chat, so do not fear. But yeah, details of what I would do before we even open the book. So here is the first part of today's lesson, the vocabulary, all of it in context later, but very much focusing on feelings, adjectives and nouns related to feelings. Now, the first thing I would see as a teacher is, oh, that's a lot of words, okay? So how can you step back as a teacher and make sure more of that workload responsibility is put onto your students? And for me, again, it's all about collaboration and group work. So what I would do is a sorting activity. I would have my students team up, group together, okay? 3s, 4s. I would give them one of these, a Macmillan English dictionary, okay? Any dictionary would do, but this is my personal favorite. Now, what I would do is I would divide those tables into positive feelings for both adjectives and the nouns, okay? Each group would exclusively have one of these, so whether it be on a big piece of A0 paper, okay? And what they're going to do is they're going to piece the adjectives and nouns into the correct sorting area. Really simplistic, but very effective, because with that dictionary, of course, they're going to work together and figure out the meaning of any words that they don't know themselves without the teacher having to tell them. Blah, 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 too much TTT. So we've got lonely, of course. There it goes. Negative feeling, adjective. Delighted, positive feeling. And there you go. The list has been pieced together. Now, we have not finished there. Okay. What I would then task my students to do is go around to all the other teams and to check if they believe the answers are correct. So we're going to do some peer checking and some peer correction. So again, there's a mistake there for you eagle-eyed attendees out there. So something needs to be changed. There we go. Happiness over there, confusion over there. So again, it's all about that collaboration, a team effort. So I myself are not going to directly give the answers straight away. The students are going to correct the students. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel here, guys. I'm just giving a really solid way to decrease teacher talk time, increase student talk time, and actually get them working as one unit, correcting each other. Really good teamwork amongst the class. And then you, the teacher, feel free to then give the answers as well. Hopefully now there are very few, if any, mistakes. So there we go. Exercise 1 is in the bag. We've got some group work with the sorting activity and then also the peer checking as well. Thank you, Debbie. Good leading. I could use that and I will. You have my permission, Debbie. Good luck with it. So that brings us now, after that initial exposure to the vocabulary, which is great because hopefully now through those dictionary definitions, through the peer collaboration of checking one another's work, they have that, again, that foundation. It's a word I use a lot, that general strength of the foundation to then build upon. And that now comes through comprehension, through context. Okay, we want to make it relatable. And actually, the book does a very good job of doing this with the questions that you can see on the screen right now. What feelings do you associate with each situation? Okay, and it's all about situations. It's all about context. We want them to be relatable. So this is what I would do with exercise 2. I would give each team a board, a whiteboard, okay? And I would build upon the textbook's ideas. So again, there's only 4 in the textbook, which is great, but it does give you, the teacher, ample opportunity to offer and feed more to your students. So I've got one for you guys in the chat. Here's my situation, and I want to know what feelings you associate with the situation I give to you. Watching your child graduate. How would you feel in that situation, people? Satisfied, says Debbie. Hung says proud. Vaidika says proud and overjoyed, says Beatrix. Do we have any more? Moved, says David. Relieved. I love that one, relieved. Oh, she graduated, he graduated. Maybe he will be out of the house now. Joyous, Amir, ecstatic, wonderful. You get the idea. So again, a number of these can be given by the teacher, but then I put that responsibility back onto the shoulders of the teams and the students, and I would task the students to create their own situation and ask the other teams how they would feel. Okay, so again, we've moved on now from that general understanding of the new vocabulary to actually utilizing these words and making sure everything from L1 to L2 is clearly understood and there's no lost in translations when applying to different contextual situations. And through your students' answers, you will see if there's been any misunderstanding or if everything is clearly understood. So again, a nice simple game, effective using the lessons content, but also tasking the students to build upon what is given in the textbook. Now, one thing I like my students to be is creative. I will cultivate, I will encourage this creativeness with activities such as this one. Go beyond the definition. So, for example, people, I will say, if anger were an animal, it would be what? Okay. And I would ask my students to finish my sentence. If anger were an animal, it would be. I put rhino. Okay. If anger were an animal, it would be a rhino. So I've got some for you guys to do now to see if you understand Mr. Blue's lesson. So here's the first one, guys. Get your fingers ready in the chat. If boredom was a hobby, it would be what? If boredom was a hobby, it would be fishing. It would be reading. Oh, I love reading. Sleeping. Oh, me Zin. I have to say that sleeping is one of my favorite pastimes. Reading, fishing, anymore. If boredom was a hobby, doing nothing. But doing nothing is the best hobby. Golf, says Diana. Knitting, watching telly. I'm so interested by some of your answers because to me, they're the opposite of boredom. I love nothing more than sitting on my bottom and watching TV. Oh, brilliant. Here's the next one, guys. Of course, oh, this is key. That word there that I've just put on the screen. Because, okay, you're going to want your students to build on their answer. Not just say, if boredom was a hobby, it would be chess. Why? Always cultivate that why. Why? Because. Okay, so here's the second one for you. If delight was a holiday, it would be. If delight was a holiday, it would be what? New Year, says Laircan. Yeah, Chuk Mung Nam Moi. Happy New Year to you. Songkran. So again, very cultural themes here. The Chinese New Year, Songkran in Thailand as well. Christmas, says Thui. Summer break, Lunar New Year, Diwali. I'm loving these answers. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And the last one for you guys. If disappointment was a movie, it would be. Eid. Again, for the previous answer, not this one. So if disappointment was a movie, it would be what? Give me your answers, guys. Titanic. Why is Titanic always the first answer we receive every time? Titanic. I think it's a great movie. A little bit too long, but a great movie. Sad end. Gone with the Wind. True Man's Live. Wonderful. So you get the idea. So a bit of fun, but really a little bit of creativeness mixed in there as well. Okay. Use in the nouns for a different reason. Fast and the Furious. Which one, Saba? I think there's about 1,200 Fast and the Furious movies, isn't there? But yeah, you get the idea. Utilize this, have fun with it, tailor it according to what you would like to expose your students to. But it's a really fun activity to try in the classroom. Anything directed by Chris Nolan. So now we all know with feelings, the beautiful thing about feelings is it's not just illustrated by the words that leave our mouth. It's very much not just down to our lexicon. We can also illustrate feelings through facial expressions, can't we? Okay. So what I would set my students to do is a photo challenge. Okay. So what does this entail, you might ask? Well, number one, they don't need any media. They don't need any technology. I'm going to pass around this in my classroom, a photo frame. Okay. And what each student will do is illustrate through their facial expression a feeling. Okay. So there's mine there. You can see it just pop up right there. What do you think? How do you think I feel in that picture that you can see? Whilst I stupidly sit here holding a photo frame in front of me. Mad, says it. Angry, annoyed. You're all right. You're not wrong. Saba says something I'm not going to repeat. Furious, upset. Brilliant. Yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm not happy. So again, silly, daft, but with a really clear meaning again of just solidifying all of that vocabulary. There's a lot there, and it's really easy and a dangerous area for teachers to get into when you start to overly explain each word, define it, explain it in context, and the students are sitting there thinking, well, I'm not talking. Okay. So again, just something as simple as this to solidify the idea before moving forward with your lesson. So again, on the lesson plan, it's all detailed there for you guys. And I will repeat what I said earlier. You will receive this in PDF form at the end of the session that you can have a good read before you go to sleep tonight. Okay. And I also must say something else as well. Again, my chosen source material is Gateway to the World, B1. But as you can see, a number of these ideas, methods, techniques really can be tailored. They're bespoke and used in a number of different ways for a number of different levels you might be teaching. And Debbie, you're right. The principle really is nail on head, real life. It all goes back to those 21st century skills and how we can relate them to our real life situation in order to get our students to speak English. And once you've done that, once you've tapped into that area of making sure the students understand it's all relatable, the journey becomes a lot more easier for them and a lot more relaxed as well. So, numero 3. And again, as you can see, this is very much specific to speaking. And as you can see as well, Mr. Blue hasn't tried to reinvent the wheel. He's used something that is tried and tested and reliable, and that's a concentric circle. Okay, so the details are very simple. You're going to have 2 circles, outer and inner. Okay, so you might have 20 students, let's say, 10 on the inside circle, 10 on the outside. You're going to clap once, and the outside circle moves 1 space to the left. Clap twice, and the inside circle moves 1 space to the left. Now, of course, because they're looking at one another, the person on the outer circle's left is different to the inner circle's left. So there's going to be that crossover approach. Now, all you're going to do is clap, clap, and the student's going to move accordingly. And then you're going to give them a word, say here, proud, for example, and they're going to begin, and they've got nice little template for there to use. The last time I felt proud was blah, 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 blah. Clap, clap, they're going to move again. Relieved, same thing. The last time I felt relieved was blah, 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 blah. But again, as I mentioned earlier, What we really want to do is get them utilizing the vocabulary in the book, but also sort of managing it in a way that becomes conversational. So I'm going to encourage my students to ask follow-up questions to what their partner says, who they are talking to. So they might say, do you often feel bored? What happened next in the situation you just told me about? How did other people feel if other people were involved? So really, really focusing on the active listening to what their partner is saying in order to produce and develop and create some follow-up questions. So again, nothing new there, but super effective, particularly with large class sizes where you, the teacher, want to walk around and just sort of focus on general mistakes that are being made. So Jenny, what have you put in the chat? You put, what if there are 4 students in the small circle and 5? The answer is, I'm going to take away what I just said about walking around as the teacher, Jenny, but you yourself will have to become a student and a participant in one of the circles. Okay. Yes, it will limit to what you can hear around from other students, but hopefully, because now you're a part of it, you can clap, clap, clap and speak to as many students as possible. Now, remember as well, Jenny, that you're going to be talking to a student, but your ears are open. So you're going to be hearing the conversation next door. You're going to be hearing the conversation to the right. So hopefully there's still opportunity there, Jenny, for you to sort of identify general mistakes that are happening around you as well. I hope that answers your question. So again, there's the speaking exercise, really effective. And when I was in the classroom, particularly with sort of teenage classes, where you're going to get that reluctance to speak, you're giving them a situation where there is zero reluctance because they're all involved, circle to circle, student to student, game on. They have to, okay? And what I love about this is you can get a good 20 minutes out of it, okay? Again, it's all down to getting through the content of the book, but also remember to slow down those key areas where you really want to give your students the opportunity to develop that speaking. So after 3 comes 4. And this is the part of the lesson when I think as a teacher, whoa, more vocabulary. And this is where, again, in my expectations, I must stress that I want my students to be exposed to all of this new vocabulary, but the expectancy is not to remember it all. Okay, we have to be realistic as students, as teachers, but I also don't want to take away from the book and say there's too much content. Too much content is a good thing. Give me more, feed me more, but also as the teacher, be realistic in what you want your students to remember. More so for me, it would be, I'm going to give you this, utilize it, take away 2 or 3, but remember that it's there to come back at if you want to build more. And that's the way I would approach all of this vocabulary, especially this vocabulary here, which, as you can see, is made up of lots of idiomatic phrases, whether that be idioms itself or some phrasal verbs, which in themselves are idiomatic vocabulary. So we've got a number of vocab there that relates to best friends, okay? And it's really good vocab, but only if we're using it correctly. So what would I do? Again, explain less, figure out more. And as ever, as we've dwelled on, context is key. Now, the context is right there in the reading exercise, where, as you can see, the students have to take the vocabulary and fill it in accordingly. So what I would do is a matching activity. So I would give the students pieces of paper with the words on, with the phrases on, and I would give separate pieces of paper with definitions on. Now, working in a group, all I would want my students to do is match the definition to the phrase, to the idiomatic phrase, okay? As simple as that. Working together, gaining a general understanding, but working in that collaborative environment. Now, once that's done, great. How can I give the answers? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my students a story. Okay, it's a story about Mr. Blue. Now, as I stop in the story, I want my students to shout out or raise a hand right on a board. whatever answer they think it is. So I'm going to task you guys with this now. I hope this works and I can remember my story. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to give you an illustration, and I want you to guess what phrase it is from the friendship phrases you can see right there in front of you. Here we go. Now, I don't have many friends, okay? But the friends I do have, I really like a lot. They are my what? They are my what? Tweet, yes, circle of friends. Well done, you've got it, circle of friends. So I'd go through this story, give my students lots of time to check the answers. Now, even though I have a close circle of friends, sometimes we do disagree with one another and argue. You could say we sometimes have our, what do you think from that second picture, guys? We sometimes have our, Tron, you've got it correct. Hopefully that illustration is clear. We have our ups and downs, okay? We have our ups and downs. Jenny, our struggles works as well, but is it in the list there? And finally, I have a best friend, okay? His name is Cristiano. We do everything together. We are really, really what? We do everything together. We are really, really, there you go. We are really, really close, myself and Cristiano. You get the idea, okay? Again, that personable relation to the vocabulary, checking it off, students identifying what the answer could be, and then straight away, it makes the filling in the book a lot more achievable. Now, to sort of segue, what you then could do, if you really wanted, is you could set a challenge to your students. So with the reading task, you could actually say to them, can you read the whole article without taking a breath? Okay. So again, your students volunteer, they read amongst to one another, practicing their pronunciation, okay, trying to read as quickly as possible without taking a breath. Now, maybe you as a teacher task them, hands up, who wants to be challenged? Who wants to read out to the class? And there you go. A small, silly challenge, but really important. But, and it's a big but, you could argue, well, Blue, because the students are trying to speak quickly, they're not really finessing their pronunciation, their enunciation, okay? And you're very true. So once they've practiced reading very quickly without taking a breath, we're going to change things. We're going to do a class reading activity where the reading will be in front of the students and each student has to read one word each. Now, this activity is great for modeling pronunciation from not you, but from the students themselves. It encourages active participation because number one, everybody is involved. And number two, everybody has to actively listen and be ready for when their word is coming up next. And number three, it promotes listening skills amongst students who are listening for their peers and whether they make a mistake or not. So here in the reading, for example, you've got student one says, oh, a little bit of a gimmick first. Maybe you give your students 3 lives, 3 balloons. And as soon as you hear a mistake, pop, students lose one of their lives, okay? So this is what it looks like, guys. Here, circle of friends. There are about a... That student made a mistake. He failed that strength on that final sound. Goodbye, 1 life, okay? There you go. So again, it gets everybody involved. Now you're really focusing on pronunciation, but everybody is speaking and everybody is making sure that they're not making a mistake. So there we go. Again, it's all written up there for your viewing pleasure. So feel free to have a look later. But usage of the idiomatic language, which again, hopefully you can see, guys, encourages more student speaking and student collaboration and less just teacher over explaining things, which again, with a vocabulary lesson is a sticky area that a number of teachers find themselves in. So that brings us on to exercise 5, okay? And as you can see, I've titled this, It Is What It Is. It's one of those downtime exercises where basically using those phrases, that idiomatic vocabulary from exercise 4, students have to fit it in to exercise 5 with the correct preposition. Now, it's not a difficult exercise because all the prepositions are given in that initial vocabulary. Okay, so this is very much one of those it is what it is exercises. A bit of downtime for students to do it by themselves, also encourage pair work and peer checking as well. But hopefully there should be minimal mistakes made there with the prepositions because all of them have been sort of explicitly given in the vocabulary in exercise 4. There we go. Some answers right there for you. So that brings us on to the production, I guess. If I was to take a PPP approach to this in terms of the way I presented, practiced, and now I want my students to produce. Now, the production for me, to give an analogy, is always a delicious cake with that cherry on top. That's what I'm looking for from my students before they leave Mr. Blue's classroom. The cherry on top, where I feel happy that I've done my job and I've exposed my students to the vocabulary, I've helped them to understand the vocabulary, and hopefully now they will illustrate for me their understanding. So as you can see, it's all about interviewing their partner, okay? And it goes back to the preposition fill-in of the questions from exercise 5. Now, what I'm hoping to see is more creatively, less controlled elements from the teacher. And with the role play, which I will show you in a moment, a lot of creative direction and freedom from the students themselves. So here's what I would do with the speaking here. So from exercise 5, there were 6 questions the students were asked. I would piece all of these questions together in a simple grid template. What would I have my students do? Well, they already know they're going to interview their classmates, but I would very much make it more of a questionnaire element where I want them to speak to multiple people around the classroom. There's the 6 questions. Write down their names, their answers, and speak to as many people as possible. Again, it's nothing new. I'm not creating something that you maybe haven't seen before, but this is the ultimate way to get your students up and utilizing what you want them to use from the book's content. The last thing I would do, which is very much a cherry on top of a cherry on top of the cake, and that's a role play. But I'm going to call this role play the expressionless role play. Why? Because, as you might remember earlier, I used this, the photo frame, and I encourage my students to illustrate expression through facial features, through facial expression, okay? But now I want them more to focus on everything but the facial expression. So in pairs, my students will create a dialogue, which they will then act out to the rest of the class. Now, this is very important, people. Students cannot use any words from the vocabulary we have taught them. So they cannot stand at the front and say, "Hello, Del. How are you today?" "Oh, I am bored." No, they cannot explicitly use any of the words that we have taught them. What they need to do instead is they must convey their feelings through intonation, tone, and avoid any facial expressions. So basically, they're going to give context and they're going to give delivery in tone and intonation. So without even being told, people know that Del and Blue feel bored, okay? Without being told, they know that Del and Blue feel happy, okay? Now, I'm going to ask Del to come back on now, and we're going to illustrate this. I haven't told him about this. I hope he's listening. Del, if you're out there in cyberspace, can I get a hello? Unmute.
Just put my shirt back on. Hang on.
There you go. So Del, I am going to write a word to you in the chat, and we're just going to completely improvise and have a conversation using zero expression and without saying the word itself. Do you think you're up to the task?
I guess so.
I guess so. Okay.
I'm a bit bored, as you said.
There you go. Well, let's try not to be as explicit as that. Here goes the word to you. Hey, Del, how's it going?
Could be better.
Why? What's wrong?
Oh, you know, just me, innit?
Just you?
Yeah, I'm working from home. Just just me here.
Okay. Guys, feel free to write in the chat what you think. Yeah, so me too. I'm in an empty office. I'm even going to go give everyone a bit of a tour. Look, just me. Yeah. Nobody else.
You must be feeling like I am.
Yeah, I am. There you go. Thank you, Del, and cut. Now, Del and I will not be invited to the Emmys or the Oscars anytime soon, but hopefully you've had a guess of what we were trying to illustrate. Alone is a good one, definitely. But the one word we were looking for was, Del?
Lonely.
There you go, lonely. So again, you're going to give your students ample time to prepare, but the idea being that you're going to move away from those facial expressions, and hopefully your students, through their delivery and the context of what they're describing, you'll be able to figure out how they feel. There you go, guys. So where am I? Yep, there's the final piece of my lesson plan. Exercise 5 and exercise 6, the cherry on top. What I'm going to do right now, guys, is to everyone, I'm just going to put the PDF into the chat for you to download. And from me, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have or have given already that I've missed in the chat. But in the meantime, just let me find the PDF and I will upload it to share with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Blue. Thank you. That was excellent. Really, really great ideas. As always, from you, you never let us down when it comes to innovation in the classroom, and really appreciate it. So we had a question in the Q&A tab. Your pronunciation is better than mine. I don't know if you want to go there. I think it's Win Trang Win says that they struggle with online speaking classes. The student, I'll try and summarize, but the students are not weak. They just don't want to talk in the class. If it was an offline class, face-to-face, the teacher would have a chance to try to make them speak. So that as it is, they're getting frustrated. Can you give some advice? So getting students to speak in online classes.
Yeah, Win, I'm just reading through it now. Again, I'm not the bearer of bad news, but I always dwell on the word reality. And the reality in online situations, it's going to be more difficult for you to cultivate that simply because of the environment you're in. Here you are in a classroom far, far away. There are your students all dotted around the city. Okay, so with that in mind, number one, you have to be realistic. Okay, but number two, what can we do? And one thing I used to enjoy doing, of course, again, utilizing Zoom, is those breakout rooms and making sure that, number one, I mixed up how students work with everybody. Now, maybe Zoom has changed in the times that I was teaching online 2-3 years ago. But what I hope to see is some flexibility in moving students around from rooms to rooms, much like it would be a concentric circle in the classroom. Now, whether you have the ability to do that or not, I'm not sure, because of, like, again, the limitations of being online. Also, the technology side of things means that sometimes when you jump from room to room or move students from room to room, they can get cut out, they can get kicked out, or it can simply take a long time to maneuver and move them from one place to another. So you've got to be realistic with your expectations. It's all about cultivating that atmosphere where students want to speak. So I would set those ground rules at the beginning. We're going to have fun, but the lesson will only be a success dependent on your involvement in said lesson. So again, there's no magic answer to the question you've just asked. There's nothing on platforms that are really going to allow you to sort of maneuver students comfortably from room to room, but hopefully it's coming with time. But more so, I would come back to you, Win, as a teacher and say, if you cultivate that and just express your demands and your wants and the fact that you're all as one team, it will hopefully help you in your speaking journey and get your students more enthused with speaking themselves.
Thank you, Blue. Very, very good. Couple more have come in from Beatrix. How do you cope with a class with various abilities or big learning gap? Do you have some tips for demotivated learners? And then she then goes on to talk about instant or delayed feedback. Which one is better in a speaking?
Yeah, very, very much two-tiered there. So Beatrix, to answer your first question, hopefully some of the examples that I gave you, you can see how they encourage collaboration, where, again, off the grid, just away, you're going to sort of, you're going to piece your students together like a jigsaw puzzle, and you're going to know the weaker and the stronger. And hopefully you can sort of create groups according to that sort of, I guess, the range that you're dealing with in your classroom. So again, you're not going to be explicit and say, hey, Bao, you're quite weak. You're going to work with Miss Wynne because she's really strong at English. But also at the same time, you're going to give ample opportunities for students to work with different students in that collaborative environment. And hopefully through that, they're going to brush off on one another, help one another, and sort of encourage to sort of work one another in order to sort of bridge that gap, I guess. Within that, the activities that I used, again, they can be tailored. You can change them. So you can sort of encourage weaker students with easier words, stronger students with more words, or even as a teacher, cut back on the vocabulary you give them initially and say, here's a group of easier words for everyone to deal with. Again, they're still going to be working in teams and groups at this point. If they've been successful with those words, give them more. So almost a scaffolded approach to the way that you deliver the content to them. I think that could help a lot. In terms of your second question, again, it depends on the situation. Again, sometimes you might want to give instant feedback for something that you're repetitively hearing repeatedly. And you think, no, I want to acknowledge that now, that it needs to change. But in general, sort of that delayed feedback might come in a different way. For example, you might have 10 minutes at the end of the lesson where you focus on it. Or you might incorporate those mistakes into an activity for the next lesson in order for students to practice what you realize was a weak point. So again, it really depends where you are in your lesson, if you have time to stop and start, or if you have time to sort of center and focus on one mistake, or if it's beneficial to focus on the end as a group of mistakes.
Yeah, very good as well. Yeah, with feedback, it's a challenge, isn't it? I think my general guide for giving feedback is, if it's a controlled practice activity where you are maybe just drilling, then obviously instant feedback can be very useful. But if it's an activity where you're doing a role play, you're doing something that requires a bit of creativity and a bit of fun with the language, then maybe use the feedback at the end. And when you are giving feedback, don't forget to point out the things that the students do well as well, not just on the things that they maybe didn't get right. Okay, we've got time for maybe one more question before I bring in Super. So you can choose, which one would you like? Can you suggest any strategies on how to encourage grade 7 students to speak and participate without having to call on them to recite one by one? Or how can we prepare effective lessons plans in general? I think that's kind of been covered in our masterclasses, and you can definitely watch our recent, the last 2 masterclasses. Maybe Dolores can put the YouTube clips into the chat.
Yeah, I think that second question, Del, it pretty much is in the templates that we're offering. Del, for example, has offered a number of masterclasses which differ to the way that I piece mine together. But at the same time, the template and the structure is still there. So in general, there is no general. It really is dependent on the level you're teaching, how you yourself want to sort of structure
number of
students as a template. Again, there's a number of variables. So hopefully within this session or group of sessions we've had when it comes to lesson planning, there's a number of ideas that you can take away and sort of mix and match as well. But very much in general, don't be specific. Don't be sort of tied down to a lesson plan template. There's a number of different ways you can sort of map out what you want to do and your game plan as it is. For me, as a teacher, when I was planning, it was just all about instant access. So again, I know the topic, I know the theme, so I can use it for that different lesson or that different textbook in order to gain ideas and sort of take ideas from previous mapped out plans I had. In terms of that first question you asked me, Del, again, recite one by one. In my opinion, you're wasting time, valuable class time. Hopefully you saw throughout my session, it's all about collaboration, whether it be that concentric circle of just getting so many people speaking at the same time. It's almost like a factory, isn't it? Okay, you've spoken to that student, out, next student, out, next student. Something like that, where you're not reliant on that one by one recital, and more so just lots of different activities that all give the foundations an opportunity for students to speak.
Yeah, can I jump on that as well? I think and again, I think with this question, from the two questions from the anonymous attendee, I think what we'll do is we'll take them away and we'll use these as a follow-up. So if you follow us on Facebook, then we'll put answers to these posts on our Facebook site. I think with that talks to me about drilling and about a very productive drilling. You know, you have choral drilling, then drilling in groups. So reciting one by one should be the last part of drilling, and it should be an exciting part because they don't know who's going to be called out, right? It might be them again. It might be them a third time, and then it might be someone different. So this is something that we can maybe just put into a short post of effective drilling. And then the second one is about cooperative learning, about a student who hates working in groups or with their peers. And I think again, we'll try and answer this in a Facebook post coming soon to a Facebook account near you. So Blue, thank you so much for that. That was excellent. I'm going to now bring in Super. Super is going to give us a showcase of materials that that Blue has actually just used in his session. So all the materials that Blue used are from a course that we call Gateway to the World, a secondary course. It's absolutely fantastic. And you'll see how fantastic it is because we have the fantastic Super right here, who is now ready to take you on a showcase of those materials. So I'm going to hand over to you, Super. Are you all right? Are you well?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. So have a great showcase. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much for Del and Blue's great session and Q&A. So here comes the introduction about the great material Blue has already covered in his lesson plan. And I hope you have you have got some inspiring ideas about how to encourage students to speak while teaching the vocabulary, using different kinds of group work, pair work, to make sure your students mingle together and also exchange information with each other to maximize the students' talking time as much as possible. And if and we're going to give you more introduction about the course book, and I will show you how a unit will look like and how the materials will help you to make sure you can encourage your students to do that in the classroom. And if you are particularly interested in this course book, and if you wish to be contacted by our local Macmillan representatives, you can scan this QR code to submit your email address, and we will get in touch with you to send you maybe a sample book or some trial codes for you to have a trial, like a test of Gateway to the World. So here's the QR code for you to submit your email address. I will give you a few seconds to scan this QR code, and after that I'm going to introduce a very new friend of Macmillan to help me with this this course showcase. So here we go. So today I am going to use our old new friend, which is called Maya, Macmillan Education's AI assistant, to help me to do this course showcase with you guys. And this is the AI assistant that can help teachers to find your best ELT courses from Macmillan Education. So let's ask Maya a question. So Maya, can you tell me more about Gateway to the World? Oh, sorry. And if you type in questions like that. And also Maya will ask you questions to help you find the right course as well. So here, because I want to know more about Gateway to the World, so Maya will give you some basic introduction, and at the same time, here's a link for you to go to a course showroom that can help you with everything you want to know about Gateway to the World. And here's the page. And while you go through this course showcase, you can always ask Maya more questions. If you have any concerns, any questions you want the Maya to tell you about. For example, I said, okay, Maya, can you tell me the key features of Gateway to the World? So here's a very good summary of the key features. And from these summaries, you can go to the different tabs on the page to give you a very good showcase about what it means. So let's go to the first page, and thank you, Maya, for your help. So the first thing I want to talk about Gateway to the World is the tried and tested methodology. Actually, Gateway to the World is the third edition of the Gateway series. It's being used by hundreds and thousands and teachers around the world, and it's been there for quite a long time. And now we have upgraded it into the third edition, and by the author Dave Spencer. He's been teaching for almost 40 years in the ELT teaching field. So he's been quite experienced dealing with teenager students, and it's a very, very tried and tested course book for teenagers to learn English at the same time to develop their life skills, which is necessary for their development and growth in the teenager time. So let's first hear from the author, Dave Spencer, and let's see what he has to say about Gateway to the World.
Gateway to the World is a 7-level English language course for teenagers. I've been teaching teenagers for close to 40 years now, and my experience in the classroom has helped me to realise the importance of genuinely interesting and motivating texts. It's also helped me realise the importance of teaching not only grammar and vocabulary, but also academic skills, life skills, and thinking skills to help our students to become great learners and great thinkers. That's precisely the title of a section in each unit of the course where we systematically train our students to think critically and also to develop social and emotional intelligence. We also have a unique approach to project work, which includes the virtual classroom exchange, a tool which enables you to put your teenage students into direct contact with teenage students in a different part of the world. If you're excited to learn more about the course, please click on the link to explore the full range of teaching materials.
So this is the message from the author, Dave Spencer, and give you a brief introduction about what Gateway to the World is about. Now let's have a look at the first and second lesson of this unit. And we choose very, very up-to-date and very, very relevant and meaningful topics and tests for teenagers to make sure they are engaged and involved in the learning. Yeah, we try to be as motivating as possible in terms of the content choice and also the visuals, the audio, video, and also including all the media content we try to include in the course book. And for example, we can see in this unit, we have got the vocabulary lesson at the beginning. So we present all the vocabulary in context. As Blue has just showcased, we have all these contextualized presentation of the vocabulary, followed by a lot of personalized tasks for students to use and try out the vocabulary. So it's not only about teaching the list of words to the students, it's about to make sense of the meaning of the words in context and encourage students to use these words in a meaningful and personalized like scenario. Yeah, encourage them to express their own feelings, not only like receive the words or the vocabulary, the language only. So I think Blue has done a great job showing you how you can introduce the words, how you can practice the words, and also how to produce the language using the words learned in the vocabulary lesson. So here you can see we have these small boxes called use it, don't lose it. These ones are the tasks that we encourage students to speak, to use, to produce the language in a meaningful context. So even when we are learning like a vocabulary or grammar, there are always a lot of opportunities for students to try and use the language in speaking or writing tasks in a meaningful way. And also in reading, there will be some great exam tips because this course book, Gateway to the World, which I will give you more information about, there is a very strong exam alignment with the Cambridge like qualification exams. So the students, while they're doing the reading, writing, speaking, and listening tasks, there will always be a link to the Cambridge exams. If they are going to take these exams later, there will be a lot of practice for them, including the exam tips. And also critical thinkers boxes will be there to guide students to reflect on what they have read in the reading or what they have listened in the listening part. So these are the first two lessons in the unit, and let's move on. So the third lesson would be the grammar lesson. So grammar teaching could always be a challenge, right? It's hard to engage students. Students find it boring. Sometimes they're like demotivated to learn grammar. That's why Dave, the author of this book, has created a series of grammar videos. There are 4 different types of videos for grammar learning. They can be used before the classroom as a flipped classroom like a material or resource for students to preview. They can be used in the classroom to present the grammar, also can be watched after the class to review what they have learned. So there are Grammar with Dave, handwriting animation, grammar grooves. It's a vlog style of videos like featuring teenagers, like day-to-day life. And also there will be some cut out animations to showcase the grammar in a visualized way. So let's have a quick look at this grammar videos.
Oh, hey, hi. Welcome to Grammar with Dave.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Grammar Gurus.
We use some with plural nouns and uncountable nouns.
We also use the present continuous to talk about temporary actions and situations.
That if you ever see a crime, it's really important to report it to the police immediately.
I really wish I hadn't bought these.
Oh, they are ridiculous. Oh, I wish I'd been there when you opened the parcel.
Indeed.
You feel really terrible when suddenly all of your work disappears because...
Do you like grammar?
No, I don't. I love grammar.
It is likely that we will be eating more plants and less meat 10 years from now. Now look at this example.
If I'd heard the phone, I'd have answered it. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.
See you next time. Bye.
So that is the grammar videos from Gateway to the World to help you to support the teachers to teach the grammar in the class for teenager students to engage them with grammar learning. Okay, that's about the grammar lesson, and let's move on to the highlight of the unit, which is called Great Learners and Great Thinkers. I think Dave has mentioned at the beginning about this special section of each unit. So we want to cultivate our learners, teenager learners, to become great learners, become independent, autonomous learners with a lot of skills to support them become a great thinker as well, to develop their critical thinking skills, to help them become like a good reflector of their own learning and their own development. So that's why we have this great learners and great thinkers page and in each unit. So in this unit, we're going to focus on students' social and emotional learning development. For example, the focus of this unit is to assess your own transferable skills. So a lot of skills can be used in different like subject learning, in different like life scenarios. So to encourage your students to think about their own and to evaluate and assess their own like transferable skills. And also we will encourage students to recognize their strengths and weaknesses, to have a very good understanding about themselves, to recognize themselves and understanding where they need to go in the future. So here we will use a lot of real life documentary videos to introduce the student about the topic at the beginning first. So here is a quick preview of the videos.
They're visiting Peru and staying in a hotel that's 1,200 feet above the ground.
Hi, I'm Emily, tea drinker, biscuit lover, illustrator and creator of the Happy newspaper.
This chipmunk is an acorn thief, and this means war.
You would think nothing could grow here, but you'd be wrong.
The aim of investing all this money in these different Olympic sports is obviously to be successful and to win medals.
When Kiahi was young, he wanted to run like a kangaroo or an ostrich, and he found a way to do it.
The travellers and the Kazakhs will travel for 5 days with 1,000 animals. Would you like to go on a holiday like this?
So this is a very different type of video we use in Gateway. So previously we have the grammar video, right? Now we have this real life documentary video to engage students to think about the social emotional learning like topic and area we're going to focus. And these videos are quite relevant to students' day-to-day life, and also it's very fancy. They look really, really amazing. So it will be easy to attract the teenagers' attention, to engage them in the way we use like a lot of multimedia content. And after watching these videos, we will have like step-by-step activities to engage the students, and there will be some great visible thinking routines to do with the students. For example, we have the diamond ranking visible thinking routine to guide your students to think about what they have watched and what they have read about transferable skills. And lastly, wrap up the whole lesson with a great learner like social emotional focus. For example, great learners are reflective. So we have these special social and emotional tasks to encourage the students to think about their own social and emotional learning, well-being and also skills. So this is a whole overview about what we cover in a level of Gateway to the World. From unit 1 to unit 10, there is one social emotional focus for each unit, and there will be a lot of different ways to help your students to reflect on their social and emotional skills. They can evaluate themselves by giving themselves a score, and then they can come back at the end of the unit to see, okay, if they have been aware and improved in this area or not. So that is how we designed the great learners and great thinkers section in each unit, to help students to become a more well-rounded learner instead of only learning the language itself. Okay, now moving on to another very good way to help your students to learn collaboratively and cooperatively. So this is the collaborative project we have in every 2 units. So in total, there will be 5 collaborative projects in each level. So students will look at topics that are relevant to their life. A lot of cultural topics will be covered. The students will be able to compare different cultures. For example, the arts in your country. They're going to do a project about arts in their own country and then compare the arts in different countries with others like cultures. So there will be a lot of different academic skills, collaboration skills, and also interculture like skills covered in these collaborative projects. And we also encourage students to exchange different types of project work with other students who are using Gateway in other countries. So this is another project we use called Virtual Classroom Exchange. So students using Gateway to the World in different parts of the world can exchange their project work and share with each other. That's something possible by using Gateway to the World. And moving on to the next. So we have looked at the first trying and testing methodology and also the skills for life. Now let's have a look at how we try to engage students like by using different kinds of real world content. I think we have already covered quite a lot. So we have these student book, a lot of different kinds of topics covered in a very good way to encourage students to read and to produce their ideas, to personalize about what they are interested in. For example, the tech talk, which can be quite relevant to our 21st, like students living in this 21st century and thinking about the development of the technology, and also to personalize what they have read about the technology in this unit. And also we not only have the student book, we have the student app. For example, here, this is the mobile app students can use on their phones. So they can do a lot of gamified practice in the student app and allow them to learn in different times in the class, after class, or before the class. And there will be some different kinds of modes. For example, this is the challenge mode for students to challenge themselves a little bit further. To try something like a little bit above their level, to give them a different kinds of challenge level. And also it's kind of possible for you to engage different mixed ability students. There are challenge level for maybe faster students, but there are normal levels for average students. So it's possible to differentiate a little bit by using the students app. And also we have the Kahoot quizzes. If you are teaching online, also, if you are teaching in the classroom, Kahoot is a very, very interactive tool that you can use. So we have all these ready-to-go quizzes on Kahoot about Gateway to the World, aligned to the course content, aligned to the unit, to the topic, so that the students can, do some interactive competitive quizzes on Kahoot, no matter you are teaching online or teaching in the classroom. That's always available and possible. And apart from that, I mentioned earlier, we have a very strong a teachers app, and there will be a lot of resources. So we have the student book, we have the student app, but also for teachers, we will have the teachers book and teachers app. So there are a lot of resources available to save your preparation time, save teachers preparation time. So all the teacher resources are available on the Teachers Resource Center, which is available from the Teachers app. Using the code on the teacher's book, you can access the Teachers Resource Center, to access all these materials. For example, there will be a lot of worksheets, so extra worksheets, a lot of videos and audios for you to download, a lot of exam mapping, a lot of CEFR checklist if you want to make sure your students are on track, and a lot of word lists for you to do your classroom and lesson planning. And here's also another very good community for teachers to be engaged with teaching Gateway to the World, which is Teach with Dave. Oh, sorry. Am I lost? Can you guys hear me okay? Hello? Yes. Yeah, the internet is not stable here. Okay, I'm back. Cool, cool, cool. Very good. So I mentioned there is an extra teacher professional development space for teachers who's teaching Gateway to the World, which is called Teach with Dave. So as you can see, here's the page. So there are a lot of webinars and videos from the author Dave about how to teach exams, how to teach about like learning skills, thinking skills, and social emotional skills. So a lot of extra like teacher professional support from the author is available for Gateway to the World teachers. Okay, so that's another bonus. Yeah. And lastly, I want to spend some time on the exam like preparation for from Gateway to the World. So a lot of students, a lot of teachers are preparing for taking like external exams, for example, the Cambridge qualification exams. So here is how Gateway to the World is mapped to that test, that exam system. So we have the exam success pages after like every unit, and there will be extra practice for students to work on the 4 skills of the Cambridge English qualification exam. And it is like perfectly aligned with the level. For example, A2 key for schools, B1 preliminary for schools. So the Gateway book, when we are learning like A2 or A2 plus level of Gateway, we are preparing for the A2 for A2 key for schools, Cambridge exam, and you will the students will practice the exam task types in Gateway, and at the same time, yeah, improving their language. So it's it's ongoing at the same time. Learning Gateway, preparing for the exam. So this is the first exam success on the student book. We also have the additional exam trainer in the workbook. So students can have extra practice in the workbook about the exam. So in the exam trainer, you will see the exam summary. So the students will learn about the exam first. It will tell the students what will be covered in the reading. So part 1, part 2, all the way to part 7, what they're going to do, and also extra practice of the reading exam, different task types, and also the exam tips for them to complete or take these exam tips. And detailed notes will be there for the assessment and each task, as well as a lot of exam tips. As I mentioned in the student book, in the workbook, there will be all available for the exam preparation. And also in the Teachers Resource Center, there are something else. So we have a full set of exam tips, like and a wider range of downloadable tests for teachers to use. As you can see, we have the CEFR checklist. We also have the placement test. We have diagnose tests. Yeah, a full set of tests are available for students to use to prepare for the exam. And especially if you are trying to align Gateway to the World to the Cambridge English qualification exam, that's already mapped. So you will find that the mapping documents there, and the students and the teachers will be very clear how you can use Gateway to the World for exam preparation. And also we have prepared another online assessment tool for teachers to use. So you can design your own tests based on this online assessment like tool. It allows teachers to build your own tests and also to test your student to keep a record of what they're where they are and what need to be further developed. So that is the online assessment. So here is an example for you to look. So you can choose the questions, you can design the questions, you can choose questions from the question bank, and also you can use ready-made tests from the bank. And you can also create your own questions. So that's possible to like personalize the tests for each of your students if necessary. Yeah, it's very good for differentiation. And you can choose students and also the schedule in the system to make sure this assessment can be pushed to your students' app and they can finish it at the time. Yes. And this is an example of one task the students will do. For example, this is from B1 level, Unit 1, grammar. Yeah, it links to the grammar point of the unit. Yeah, to give you a very clear understanding where the students need to be like work on harder, what to be improved like further, and what help you will need to give the students to help them to bridge that gap. So that's a very, very good tool, yeah, for both the students and teachers to keep on track and yeah, have a good understanding about their learning like a stage. Okay, so that is all about Gateway to the World. So I would like to show this QR code to you again. If you're interested in knowing more about Gateway to the World, you can leave your email address by scanning this QR code and submit your like email address, and we will get contact with you very soon. Yeah, we will give you more support about Gateway to the World. And also, before I let everybody else go, please also share your feedback with us about Blue's session and about the course showcase. If you have any further questions about our webinars, if you want to hear some specific topics about our future webinars, please, feel free to share your feedback with us, and we look forward to hear you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Super. Yeah, great.